Alright, now let's look at what type of information we can find in the handheld data. So if we come over to the handheld tab and open up the handheld, so what we've got here, I'll kind of move across, is the location name. So we know we're looking at this handheld and we're looking at the geocoding GPS tracking for this date. We can choose other dates, but it'll show you any given day, and then if you click on a specific line, it'll actually show you just that one location. Now, my GPS tracking, most of it was all done from the same place today, so all of my tracking all shows this exact location. But if I were to choose other days, it would have other locations. And so then here we've got the sent to handheld and the from handheld times. Those correspond to these fields here. That is the last time that the handheld had data from the server sent to it, and the last time that the handheld had sent us data. And that is this column. Then we've got inactive, so we can turn off the handheld and activate it. Schedule order. This is the sequence that if this handheld if you use scheduling and the scheduling calendar, this is the sequence from left to right that will appear on the calendar. 0 through 20 or whatever, in sequential order left to right, 0 being the first one, 1 will be the second column, 2 will be the third column, etc. And that matches up here. If you set it to -1, that means you do not want it to appear on the schedule. You can also see up here we've got the version number. That is the version that the handheld last reported that it is running. There's this column over here for warehouse. Warehouse is if this is the warehouse handheld. You can only have one warehouse handheld, but the warehouse handheld is the one that inventory, when there's restock from other handhelds, it's pulled off of the. And so if that was set as a true or a 1 or a checkbox through the B2B settings for the handheld, it would be indicated here. Now back inside here, again, we've got the calendar, and the map, and you can zoom in and zoom out and move around, choose the different times, and see where they were at for different processes that occurred. The geotype listing here says GPS. That is if the location was pulled by the GPS. It is possible that it could also be pulled from the a tower that the cell phone is broadcasting from, and then that would say cell tower instead of GPS. And then this is the actual longitude, latitude locations reported in. If it was using the cell tower, then it could obviously be a little bit off by a mile or two because it's reporting the cell tower location. So it's good to know if it's a GPS location or a cell tower location that's being reported. Alright, now this information down here. We've got the customers. This is the list of all the customers that are loaded onto this handheld. You can remove them by simply double-clicking them and then setting to be inactive, and that'll remove them. Or you could go in and use the quick loader. The quick loader will allow you to add customers from the left to the right and from the right to the left. If you highlight one, it will take it and place it over to that side. If you highlight multiple, it'll do multiple. If you hit this button, it'll move all of them to the right, and these are the ones that are on the handheld. If you hit this, it'll remove all of them. So if you want to remove everybody, you would hit here. If you want to just remove one, you highlight the one you want, place it back over here, hit apply, and now they're all listed here. Routing is all of the upcoming visits that are set for this handheld, when they are, sequence information that loads to the routing and the scheduling. Inventory, this is the inventory information of what they have on that truck or that vehicle as the handheld has reported it and is tracking it. Invoices is just the history of all the invoices done on that handheld. messages, you can look at the messages that were created by the handheld or for the handheld, sent specifically to it through the message button that is on some handhelds, depending upon if you have decided to have us configure it with messaging or not. The users is the list of users that are allowed to log in to the handheld. If they are listed here and are a user of the main Trakker system, then their invoices will show up under the Invoice tab over here. If you log in as a user that does not have access rights to this handheld, then the Invoice tab will not show their invoices. The purpose of this is that if you wanted to set up a desktop system to be used at the office by your drivers, that they could log in with their user ID and come in and be set up to only see the Invoice tab, but the only invoices they would see would be their own. They wouldn't see anybody else's. And that's the point of that. Because in the office, when you're set up that you can see handhelds, you can see everybody's and get to them through the Invoice tab. But if you only see certain ones under the invoices over here, that means that you're not an authorized user to log onto this handheld. And that also gives security to the handhelds, where you set them up with their username and password. They can log in here, but then if they forget it and somebody else somebody else in the office needs to do some maintenance to it or look at it or log into it for some reason, they can log in with their username and password and get into it still. This tab here is the invoice ranges, where invoice 1 to invoice 2, that is your standard invoices, where this invoice is on 8090, the next will be 8091, up through 20,000. Once it hits 20,000, it will then reset invoice 1 and 2 to this range. Some customers like to have it repeat from 1,000 to 20,000, and they could repeat by telling this to make this 1,000 to 20,000 as well. Or they could make sure that their other handhelds that are set, maybe handheld 1's 10 to 20, handheld 2's 20 to 30, etc. And then when they're getting near the end of their invoice range on handheld 1, they will have invoice 3 and 4 set for 40 to 50, because that'll be the next invoice ranges available for anyone to use. And then the restock button or indicator here is set to 0, which means do not restock this handheld at the end of day process. If you open this and set it to check, then it would restock this handheld on the next end of day process. And then there's the time clocks, which shows each time that an invoice was entered and exited, every time an invoice was entered on a new customer, which is then either stopped when another customer's invoice is started or opened or looked at or created, until either the next one is, or you hit the stop time clock button, available on some handhelds depending upon if you requested that feature.